When I was 23, I had to move out of state for work. At the time, I was still with the same company I work for today, but back then, I didn't know anyone in that new city, and I needed somewhere to live that wasn't going to drain my entire paycheck. So, I posted online everywhere: Facebook, Craigslist, Reddit, even Twitter, basically anywhere I thought I might find a roommate. After a few days, a guy named Ethan reached out to me on Facebook. He said he had a spare room for rent in his house. I looked through his profile pictures, and he seemed like a normal guy. Not creepy, not flashy, just average. My parents didn't like the idea of me living with a man I didn't know, but I was open to it as long as he seemed trustworthy. We arranged a FaceTime call. Ethan gave me a virtual tour of the house. It wasn't huge, but it was nice. A small, modest place about a 10-minute drive from my new office. He also seemed friendly, polite, and professional. His rent price was fair, his house rules were simple, and he said the room was available immediately. Honestly, it felt like a perfect match. A week later, I packed in my car and drove down. Ethan met me outside the house, handed me a key, and even helped carry some of my heavier bags inside. The room was already furnished, but I swapped out the sheets and pillows with my own. That night, I started to settle in. Ethan kept trying to chat with me. Nothing over the top, just small talk. I figured he was trying to make me feel welcome. The next day, which was a Sunday, he offered to show me around town. I wasn't excited about spending the day with someone I barely knew, but I said yes to stay on good terms. He drove me around, pointed out the grocery stores, the shopping centers, and the restaurants. Then, he asked if I wanted to grab lunch with him. I told him I wasn't hungry. Right after that, he pushed for us to go get drinks instead. I turned that down too, saying I don't drink on work nights. He kept insisting, "Come on, just one drink, it'll be fun." I stayed polite but firm, and finally he gave up. His whole mood shifted after that. He went quiet, almost sulking, and I started to feel a little uneasy. That week, I focused on starting my new job, so I didn't think too much about it. But a few days later, something happened that rattled me. I was doing laundry and noticed my hamper clothes looked different, like someone had gone through it. Then, when I was loading the washing machine, I realized a pair of my underwear was missing. At first, I told myself I must have misplaced them, but deep down, I couldn't shake the disturbing thought. What if Ethan took them? I didn't want to accuse him without proof. So instead, I went to a hardware store and bought a new doorknob with a lock. While Ethan was out, I swapped the knobs so I could lock my door at night. I figured I'd explain it to him later. That night, around 1:30 in the morning, I woke up to loud banging on my bedroom door. It was Ethan, calling my name in an angry voice. I froze in bed, pretending to be asleep. I was terrified he was going to force his way in. The next morning, I got a bunch of texts from him saying, "We need to talk. Be home after work." I texted back, asking if this was about the doorknob. He said yes. I apologized, told him I just wanted some privacy, and explained that I feel safe with a lock since I'm a young woman living with a stranger. At first, he was cold and angry. Then, he softened a little but still told me the lock had to come off. He said, "The old doorknob goes back on today." I felt upset, but I figured maybe he was right since it was his house. What scared me more was a question. How did he even know I changed it, unless he tried to come into my room that night? A few days later, while Ethan was gone, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find a young woman about my age. She asked, "Are you living here with Ethan?" When I said yes, her expression got serious. She told me I needed to get out immediately. She explained that Ethan had multiple restraining orders against him from different women. He was known to be a stalker and had a history of being dangerous. I was speechless. I asked how she even knew I was living there. She told me she lived nearby and saw me moving in. She wanted to wait until he wasn't home to warn me. She gave me her number and told me if I needed help, she'd be there. I was terrified now. I had already paid Ethan for the whole month, but I started looking for new places immediately. I found a studio apartment across town that was available right away. I texted Ethan, telling him that I had to move out because of family reasons. He didn't respond at first. Later, He came home and asked about my message. I gave him my best fake story, and he agreed to refund my rent after he went to the bank. I felt relieved. But that night, everything spiraled. I woke up in the middle of the night to find Ethan sitting at the end of my bed. I screamed, and he quickly put his hand over my mouth, telling me to be quiet. I begged him not to hurt me. He whispered, "Why would I hurt you? I just don't want you to believe what those other girls say." Then, this still makes my skin crawl, he started stroking my leg. I shoved his hand away, jumped out of bed, and ran out of the room. He yelled after me, but I ran outside with my phone and called the police. I hid in the bushes until they arrived. When the officers questioned him, Ethan acted completely normal, denying everything. He said he never went into my room. But one officer quietly told me that Ethan had, in fact, been arrested before for incidents with women. The police stayed while I grabbed the rest of my stuff and packed my car. I also made Ethan transfer me my rent money back on the spot. That night, I stayed in a hotel. The next morning, I moved into the studio apartment. Thankfully, the landlord was kind and let me move in quickly. That experience left me shaken for months. And I made a promise to myself. I will never again live with a man I don't know, not a roommate, not a stranger from the internet. Never again.